We are officially live on social media. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of Reflection Artist Live. We are number 42. We have today with us special guest Tyler Cucchi. He is been in the industry for 12 years. He's been with Auto Magic for 3. He is the Eastern Zone manager for Auto Magic. So he has a lot of responsibility in regards to product sales, all that good stuff. And we're going to dive into how Tyler got started in detail and in general. And of course, how he landed a great job with a company like Auto Magic. And he can also give us some background on who Auto Magic is for those of you who may not know. You know, there's a lot of great companies out there that there's a lot of detailers that aren't familiar with it, and that's fine. So that's what we're here for, to get you guys familiar with the brands, the people, and to talk, of course, detail and business and all the things that kind of go underneath that umbrella for all of us in the industry. So, Tyler, thank you for coming on, and yeah, dive into it. Let me know how it all got started for you.
Yeah. So no, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. I very much appreciate it. I know we're a little bit delayed out, but congrats on the new. I believe it's consulting with Auto Geek is the right title for you there.
Yeah, I'm basically lead education consultant. So basically, I have, I fill the void, with what Mike was doing with the education side and videos and things like that. That's where I come into play for that aspect of it.
But yeah, so to go into me, I really got into the financially compensated detail industry, or for a little bit had some time that didn't include car detailing supplies. So I'd even consider it just the automotive aftermarket industry. A couple weeks after getting out of high school. So growing up, I always had a couple jobs, at least a couple jobs.
Anything detailing related?
So no, actually, that's kind of the weird thing. So I cleaned my family had a couple vehicles. We cleaned our vehicles religiously. We still have some of those old products sitting in my dad's garage, which is comical. But no, so I never did anything. I was actually a year into what I would call the automotive aftermarket, which I really started. And I actually went and found it. So I work for a company called Bomico. They're a family-owned company here. This is a catalog that I was actually hired to design, a paperback catalog. So I went to school for programming and did a lot of graphic stuff. And pretty much I started off doing their light bulbs, oil filters, wiper blades into digital media and web development for them, which was a lot of fun. Shortly after that, we ended up taking over a lot of their office work, which was a lot of learning. I mean, accounts receivables, accounts payables, deposits and everything. And I got to learn a lot about distribution business in general, not just our detail industry, but distribution as a whole. And then from there, it was probably, like I said, about a year into it. We were approached by a major brand. So we were approached by Simon Eyes. Simon Eyes brought us in as their professional detailing product distribution from Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And from there, the lead sales rep just didn't end up working out with us. And at that point, the office, we had brought in a couple people to help work the office. One of them actually now is my fiance, which is kind of comical. 12 years later. But
so was that on-job chemistry is what you would call that?
No. So actually what was funny is she did not like working with me.
Funny how that works, right? but yet she wanted to work against you, literally.
But yeah, no. So I'm one of those people. So I'm from New England. I'm from Massachusetts. I very much have that work ethic that a lot of people from the Northeast have, where I do a great job separating personal life and business life. So we can have a conversation about stuff in a business atmosphere not going right, but it doesn't mean we can't be friends outside of it. Hey, we need to get this fixed for the profitability of a business. and we may not like each other there, but we're trying to work together to get something accomplished. And I think that was kind of some of it, as I was letting go of all of the office duties as the owner was shifting me. So I had covered a couple sales reps vacations on the mechanical stuff. So oil filters, wiper blades, lubricants, and I loved it, which was comical to me because I grew up thinking I was going to be a computer programmer, or more specifically a video game designer. So I'd clean a car here and there and enjoyed it, but my big joke, and anyone that knew me from back then used to say, I'm gonna have the best cubicle in the office. I'm gonna have the corner cubicle. I'm gonna have all the windows and my little goldfish bowl. Like, that used to be my quote unquote sales pitch up until about 20, as I was gonna have the best cubicle in the office. And then the owner threw me out on the road to cover some vacations, just drive around, go to these places, ask them what they need. And I got back at the end of the week and I was like, when's the next person's vacation? Because you just paid me to drive around and talk. And he chuckled. And that was how eventually, when the position opened up for the detailing department, at that point, it was a full-blown department. We were selling SM Arnold, High Tech, Buff and Shine, Simonize. We had our own private label shortly after that we were developing with a local bathtubber or a local manufacturer.
Easy. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
So no, and it was fun, and it was I always kind of think back about it. I love history in general, and we'll talk more about that as a whole. But as even I get into it, I'm like, man, I can just remember, back when, and I look at that catalog sometimes, just flipping through it. I'm like, man, the stuff that I thought we had that was amazing, and now I go out there on a more national level, and I'm like, this is comical because this is the stuff, that everybody's got, and until they use, a national brand, whether it's Automagic, Carbright, ECP, PNS, Malco, one of the top fives or even the top tens, that's when it really shows you, and you'll hear me talk about it a lot more, but the profitability of a business.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, as we keep going through this, you'll hear me talk more about it, is profitability. I am obsessed with the profitability and efficiencies of a business. Because at the end of the day, I've developed into this person that loves shiny cars. You, I'm sure, have developed into a person that loves shiny cars. And I had a detail business that was not very profitable. And I guess I still technically clean a couple cars here and there. But at the end of the day,
I'm sure you get those requests just because of who you are in your position. People probably, like friends, family, close people in that circle, probably are like, hey, do you do car detailing?
Yeah. and that's kind of where it is now with what I clean. We were just I was working with the product manager a week or two ago. Yeah, I just got back from Syracuse yesterday, so it was last week. I was on Long Island with our product manager doing questionnaires about ceramic coatings, because eventually we'll have one. I know everybody that knows Automagic knows we've been working on one for a very long time. And we're getting there, but we're walking into detail shops and they're like, well, you're Automagic, you're supposed to know what it's like. And my comment to them is, hey, my 9 to 5 job, is getting these supplies to the distributor, and the distributor's 9 to 5 job is getting the supplies to you. I may ceramic coat 5-10 cars a year. You may ceramic coat 10 cars a month. And that's when they kind of click, like, oh, wow. So he realizes for him to be able to do his job, he's got to, get the input from me. And that's where some of the people that I do the details for, I've even analytically looked at that. I almost exclusively do details for business owners. Very, very rarely will it be an employee. And they're always someone that knows who I am. I joke I'm like the most difficult person to have clean your car, because you may drop it off on a Friday night and not be allowed to pick it up until, Monday morning, because I may do 1 or 2 hours here, 1 or 2 hours there. But but they're
Balance.
people. Yeah. And I'm fitting you into my family's life, but you said, hey, I want you to do it. And it's okay. Well, I'll get it done for you.
That makes sense as long as you're aware and it's up front and you agree.
Yeah. And it's again, it's comical to me because I look back and when and I'll get back into the history of it, but I did start a mobile detail company, and I was that jerk that did $100 complete detail, and I'd get one a day, and I never realized how much money I didn't make, because it would have been about 10 years ago, and yeah, it was before all the ceramic coatings, or at least I wasn't aware of them at that point. They were out there, but I wasn't using them. I was nowhere close to using them. But I look back at it and I honestly sometimes feel bad for the people that are attempting to make ends meet. And it's not that they're not working hard enough. It's that they just don't understand the profitabilities and, the overhead of a detail. Yeah. The potential of the expense. And that's the thing. It's more the potential of the expenses that I think people never realize.
They overlook it. They think it's just going to work its way out.
Oh, they're like, oh man, I was working at McDonald's making $10 an hour, but now I can detail a car for $100. So, I had to work 10 hours to do it and now I get it done in 8. But when you sit back and look at your gas, your chemicals, your insurance that you may not have, whatever else, you end up finding out you're not making it. And but yeah, so that was probably, and who knows, maybe that's why I am so hyper fixated on profitability. That those profits are what you and I get to take back to our family and get to go have fun with, or pick the lifestyle that we want to have. And that's why I focus on it. So back to my history a little bit there. So I was with Bomico. I loved it. I got no sales training, which is common for a small family-owned business. It was hey, here's your box of business cards, your pad of paper, and your pens. Good luck, go for it. And that was actually how my need for starting a detail business kind of came out from. So as I shifted from the office and took over the detail division, as they called it, I didn't know how to use all this stuff. So yeah, Simonized, being in Connecticut, I was able to learn from them. They gave me some good education, but you can't learn anything as fast as you can when you're on the job. So I had at the time, a 97 hatchback Integra. And anyone that's ever worked with me before has heard this story where I used to have to put my pancake compressor and my mighty carpet extractor in my passenger seat just right, or I could not get the car past third gear. And everyone would chuckle and look at me at that, but I literally was on Route 2 one day trying to drive back from a mobile detail and could not get my car past third gear. And I was like, oh boy, this is a problem. And anyone that's from the Massachusetts area, Route 2, it's not an I-4 like down in Florida, but it's not the road to not be able to maneuver your vehicle on. So that's really what forced the business, was learning the products. From there, I ended up parting ways with Bomico and did run that detail business full time. I got into my first winter, which is a big thing, and I don't think, I don't know where everyone's listening from, but one of the big things that people have to realize is the seasonality of different markets. And I never, even as someone from the Northeast, I always heard, oh yeah, seasonalities, this and that. In Florida, people would be like, oh, Florida doesn't have the winter, so therefore they don't have seasons. No, Florida has seasons. Their seasons are just different, and it's not driven off of snow.
No, just rain. Just a lot of rain.
But the seasonality was a big thing. I was sitting on, what I would consider a good sized nest egg. But at that point, money in my savings account. But at that point, I was, I had met who's now my fiance, and we had 2 children, or she had 2 children prior to me. So for me to feel comfortable knowing, hey, I can take care of the kids, I can take care of Mandy, myself. Being a mobile detailer in the Northeast is, yeah, there's some guys that, guys and girls that are able to accomplish it, but it was not something that to me was feasible.
It's pretty brutal, and the shutdown and figuring out how to create income. And
yeah, so it was probably roughly September. I'm always someone that's looking forward to the next step. Okay, what's my forecasting? So it's probably September before I even got to the winter, and I knew in September by mid-November I was not going to have enough money from November to make it all the way to the other side of February. And at that point in my life, I didn't like leverage credit cards. I never wanted to leverage credit cards. I've met so many detailers that have made it through seasons by just leveraging debt. And it just wasn't something that I was raised to want to pursue. So I ended up taking a position with Autozone. Everybody knows Autozone. A lot of people in our industry have worked for Autozone, but where I was a little bit different than most people in our industry is I was in a position called a territory sales manager. So we normally don't hear about that position. There's only about 400 of them in the country. It's probably closer to 500 now. But my job was exclusively focusing on business to business sales, which is good because I don't do well with retail business. Which brings me back to that right now when I clean a car, it's almost exclusively a business owner because business owners have no issues talking about profitability, have no issues with everyone making a little bit of profits here and there. And retail people are very usually self-driven, which is fair. That's what they're looking for. But when I was at AutoZone, what I really loved that they did for me is they gave me professional sales training. So now anyone that works with me at AutoMagic, whether it's my peers at the corporate level or one of our distributors, you'll always hear me talk about the features, advantages, and benefits of a product, about a strategic sales process, and then going through again profitabilities. I know I'll end up sounding like a broken record with that word.
No, it might embed into some of the viewers and be helpful.
But they spent a substantial, and they still continue to spend a substantial amount of money on educating their sales staff, and giving them some structure, which was huge for me. So at that point, I would have been 22. I was just a couple months past 22 when they hired me. If I was 21, I legally couldn't have held that position with them, just because of their motor record vehicles and the way that they hold their drivers accountable, being a large publicly traded company like that.
That makes sense. It's like when you rent a car, right? You have to be 25.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's exactly what it boils down to. There's certain, drinking laws that affect driving and all that other stuff and rentals. But yeah, so I was 3 months, unless someone has managed to be 12 weeks younger than I was the youngest territory sales manager that AutoZone had ever hired, up at that point. Obviously there's opportunities for someone that could have moved into it, but I only had that opportunity because I started in a sales position, and dealing with business to business all the way back to 18 years old, or right before 18 years old, when I started that small family owned business that, brought me in what at the time was a couple hours a week to make a catalog. So,
when you first showed me that catalog a couple minutes ago, and
you
flipped it open, just naturally, your finger went right to the buffing pad page.
Did it? Probably.
I don't know how that worked, but hey.
Yeah, it's perfect, dead center. Look at that. Now that I know about marketing, it's the middle of the catalog. Buffing pads are right there in the middle of the catalog.
I see what
I didn't. Look at that. That's funny right there.
I see what you did. You had to bookmark and everything with a tab. You're like, boop, boop. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Manufacturers pay big money to be in that center page of a catalog. So, maybe I'll have to go back and see if I can get like back pay on something like that. Um,
That's cool though that you're able to have that, that position to build that out. Because that gives you that on your resume, and excuse me, helps for the future with you being able to understand how to make a catalog, or have the starting point of how to understand how to make a catalog, if anything.
it was so the detailing products in the detailing world, we have a pretty good catalog of everything from manufacturers. But in the automotive side of it, like we have little light bulbs that are in all our headlights and directionals and everything. There's no catalog on all that stuff. I actually took a picture on a background and modified. It's not in this edition of the catalog, but it modified every single one. And you want to talk about being able to identify and learn each bulb, each oil filter. Making a catalog is probably one of the best ways anybody can learn a product line. Reading a catalog is great, but actually making it, I learned more about the aftermarket industry from making that catalog than I ever did talking to any of my manufacturer reps, because I was producing the marketing that our whole sales team was using. But yeah, no, it was educational. It was fun. I've done, so I did go to college, but I did not finish college. I ended up falling in love with sales in the detailing industry and everything, and ended up leaving college. My last year and a half of college boiled down to marketing. So I went to school for computer science for programming, and my last year I was doing business classes, marketing classes, philosophy, psychology classes. And eventually someone asked me, they're like, how is this going to get you a computer science degree? I was like, I should probably stop doing this. This doesn't seem very cost effective.
Yeah, but there are a lot of successful detailers, business owners within the detail industry, whether they're selling product or whatever, that have college degrees, established for years, whatever degree it may be, and or left college to come into this side of the industry, and they're probably doing better off than they would have if they would have pursued the career that from college.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And I had that multiple times, especially shortly after parting ways with college and realizing that I would much rather be, in a vehicle every day, driving to businesses, talking about their businesses, establishing relationships. I mean, at the end of the day, a salesperson will have relationships with, 200 or 300 people, let's just say, on a weekly or biweekly basis. I got to watch people's businesses grow. Actually, I was talking with a couple people here in Massachusetts that I've serviced for over 10 years now. And they even say it back to me. They go, man, I remember when you were fresh out of high school and I first met you, and look at you now. And it's weird because I always watch them develop, and, a couple of them, I'll still go in and shoot the shit, for lack of better terms, and just chat with them and see what's up. And some of them will make that comment, wow, I can't believe you're at where you're at. We had a good conversation, company named Auto Manicures in Maynard, who I love the work he does. He does great work. He family owned business. His daughter's slowly taking it over and everything. But back in November, I got the opportunity to work on an OEM's warranty. So it was their 35th warranty claim since they've been here in the United States. And I got to do that right before my 30th birthday. And you go back to when I was 18 years old, I didn't know what a technical service bulletin was. I didn't know what a warranty claim was, a dealership warranty claim was, and everything. And it's crazy how quickly you can come without always pursuing a college level education. And just because you don't have that piece of paper doesn't mean you're not smart enough to figure it out. And the detail industry is a great example. It's not a recognized trade, so to speak, by any like trade schools or colleges, but you've got the opportunity to make the same money, if not sometimes better money, than any skilled labor job out there. And I know earlier we were talking about my age, so I'm 30 now, and my parents were much younger, but college is what you were supposed to do. And my stepson it is 22, and I didn't really push him to go towards college, and he can make good money with skilled labor. I think the generations have flopped. Once upon a time, you needed a desk job to make good money, and now skilled labor is eating the people with college degrees lunch sometimes. So if someone needs to go back to this video and show it to their parents because their parents is pushing them too hard, I'm a regular example of someone that attempted to do college because that's what I was raised to do. But 3 years into the sales industry, not even 3 years into the sales industry, I couldn't have afforded to go back to college and become a computer programmer for what I was making as a salesperson.
Nice. And don't have a lot of debt. That's the other thing. If people go to school for a long time, accumulate a lot of student debt, and next thing you know, they're having to pay that off and figure out ways to pay that off.
You could, so just going back, and I still have some of my programming books, and I still goof off with it a little bit here and there, just for fun personal projects. But you could honestly have a really, really beautiful detail studio for just your book cost. Forget tuition, but just your book cost. Sometimes you could have, a full-blown detail studio completely outfitted and not be in debt with all the other stuff. I mean, it's there. But yeah,
Wow.
where were we? So I was at AutoZone. I jump around. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm following. I'm catching up.
I have ADHD like almost everybody else in the industry.
No. You're doing good. You're on task. You're just digging into some of the backgrounds in each part of your life. I like it. I dig it.
So yeah, AutoZone did a great job teaching me professional sales, structured sales, and I try to bring that over to a lot of our distribution now at AutoMagic. So
how did you land the spot at AutoMagic from AutoZone?
That's a good question. So actually from AutoZone, I ended up working with our local distributor here in New England, Wipe On, Wipe Off, who Joseph Nisi, the owner over there, kind of took that leap of faith. I was the first salesperson he brought on at the capacity that I was for him. And we scaled his business rapidly while I was with him. We were having a lot of fun with it. We were growing nice and quick. Joseph, just a little background on Joseph. So while I was scaling his business, our primary line was AutoMagic. And this is where I've worked with a lot of brands. So I've sold G-Technic, I've sold Rupes, I've sold Flex, I've sold Buff and Shine, I've sold Ardex, PNS, Meguiar's, Nanoskin, and Past Life, Eagle One, Simon Eyes, private label products. If I'm missing anyone, I'm sorry, but I've worked with a lot of brands, and every brand has their own benefits. There's a lot of brands out there. Perfect example is like Buff and Shine. Your guys' bread and butter is making quality pads that allows you to, reduce labor times and sometimes accomplish what we used to have to take 3 or 4 steps on a paint correction and able to get it done in sometimes 1 or 2. I was doing a training class yesterday, and we did exactly that. We talked about the AutoMagic 4 Ps, and one of those is the pads. And I showed them with one pad, we could get about a 70% paint correction. That was a true 70% paint correction. Or by using 2 pads, we could very quickly get over 80%, which met their expectations on a vehicle that was just destroyed. And so each manufacturer had all their own benefits. But yeah, when I was with Wipe On, Wipe Off, we brought in a lot of lines. We brought in some boutique high-end lines. I was there for 2 to 3 years. Had a lot of fun. We brought in a lot of more sales reps. I'm actually going to be working with their sales team doing an IDA training class on Saturday, which is pretty exciting this week.
Very nice.
And then, we continuously grew. we grew a lot with AutoMagic at that point. And then a couple years into it, Joseph and my paths just kind of parted ways. I was cleaning cars for a little bit again, just because of the time of the year that it was. And probably about 3 months after that, actually our parent company, so AutoMagic's parent company is a manufacturer called Evercoat. Usually nobody in the detail industry knows who Evercoat is. Everyone, and they're a filler and putty brand, so everyone knows Bondo. Bondo is owned by 3M. Bondo is very retail happy. Evercoat owns the market of the commercial industry when it comes to fillers and putties. So Evercoat and 3M are competitors. And it was shortly after 3M purchased out Meguiar's that Evercoat went and purchased out AutoMagic. So that would have been, yeah, kind of strategic moves. Oh, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, going back on the history, I'm sure that was probably a big deciding factor of it. Which kind of brings us at this point where I am with AutoMagic. So yeah, so I started Evercoat, kind of reached out to me because I had a relationship with them because I was using the Evercoat name to help bring wipe on, wipe off into body shops here in New England. So they really helped me out. It was a couple months after that. Like I said, they called me. I said, "Oh, I'm not there anymore." And they happen to have this position open. So they flew me into Cincinnati. And
so was it an immediate, hey, oh, you're not with them? Would you like to come with us? Or how did that conversation go?
So I'd always been involved in talking with the sales manager. So the person that was above the position that I currently have, the person that had my position before was Jeff Nevels, who's over at Carbright. Jeff was awesome. Jeff was my zone manager. Jeff and I still talk frequently, but he had parted ways with AutoMagic, and Paul had reached out to me almost because of the success. So Paul is my current supervisor. He handles all of the AutoMagic business here in the United States. And Paul reached out to me a couple times because of my relationship with Evercoat, as we were going after some of Evercoat's largest customers and selling them our product very successfully versus the sales reps from another brand where they had 12 sales reps in New England, and I was one sales rep producing or pursuing their business. That they were kind of impressed because Evercoat's always competed against that other brand. And AutoMagic and Evercoat have a business philosophy about quality over quantity. So we have 3 zone managers here in the United States domestically. Myself, I cover the Eastern 23 states, a Central zone manager, and a Western zone manager. On the Evercoat side of it, we'll have 30 manufacturer reps to their largest competitor has well over 400 manufacturer reps. So we focus on making sure we're more efficient rather than being all over the place. And that's why they were kind of impressed of that. So there was already an established relationship there. And then when I parted ways with them, it wasn't instantaneous as being owned by Evercoat or ITW, Illinois Tool Works, is the organization that we are both owned by. Nothing's quick with them. The Titanic's not turned in a day, as everyone would say. So it took some time. There was communications that went back and forth. Up until this point in my life, or the last 3 years, I refused to sleep in a hotel room for work. Like religiously, I don't work weekends. Really, if I'm working a weekend at this point in my life, it's SEMA or Mobile Tech, Southern Detail Conference, things like that. If it's not a trade show, the majority of my work is Monday through Friday. And I've always been that way. I think that's why I like business to business so much. Businesses are usually ran, 8 to 7 during days, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's kind of where I've always been with it. So I know that obviously it's both talking out of both sides of my mouth. Yeah, I'm working with Wipe On Wipe Off this Saturday to do an IDA training. But that's
No, that's part of being a, what I call product of your environment, where you can have your job being brand specific, but that doesn't mean that you have to help build the industry being brand specific. And that's where you could have relationships with others and build together, even though you're not playing for the same team, to say.
yeah, no, and that's a good example. So I landed back into the detail industry around the age of 25 is probably when I started. Right before 25 is when I started with Wipe On Wipe Off. So I took my 2.5 years that I was with AutoZone. I learned sales professionally, and I came back into the detail industry and just consumed everything. Any manufacturer rep that was a manufacturer rep for me, I can just imagine how much they dreaded every time the phone rang and it was my name on it, because they knew I was going to talk to them for 30 minutes about something new. So that was the only good thing that a lot of manufacturer reps would let me know, is at least I never asked them the same question. It was always a different question. Like, okay, I know we talked about this on Tuesday and today's Thursday, but what if I did it this way? And that's very much on the way that I present with all the salespeople that I work with now. Is you'll notice I don't deal in absolutes. I was doing a training yesterday with a person that was asking about, so it had chemical etching on the plastic panel on the inside of a door, and he's fresh to the industry, like 7 months he's been detailing with no training whatsoever at a fairly high volume Ford dealership. And he asked, oh, I was cleaning this car and there was little dots on the plastic. And I asked him the questions. It was definitely chemically etched. And I looked around the shop and he had some degreasers that definitely could have chemically etched it. But the way that he described it, it sounded like the damage was most likely already there before he touched it. And I'll ask those questions. I ask a lot of questions before I give an answer, but I told him I'm going to give you 2 answers. I don't know which one's the right answer, but I want you to be aware that both of them are there. And I said, 1, if you use this product in the car, you could have caused that damage if it wasn't diluted enough. I said, or 2, if it's diluted the way that it's pre-diluted, so I know it should have been diluted correctly, what would have happened is you may have washed off or cleaned off someone else's dressing that they put on there to hide it up. And a lot of people will attempt to clean up their cars before they trade it in, because they think, oh, if my car looks a little bit better, they'll give me top dollar for my trade-in. I said, so they may have hired someone, that would have tried to take care of it themselves, or they would have gone under the sink and grabbed some 409 and taken care of something themselves. I said, 409 is a great example of something that will definitely etch plastic. And it made them think, okay, it could have been me, it could have been this. And that's a lot of times, very rarely will I ever give someone a yes or no answer. It could be A, B, or C. Because nowadays nothing's ever the same. Nothing's as easy as it could be once upon a time.
A lot of times, with being new to the industry, they're not used to stopping and inspecting before they move forward, so they'll just jump right into the job. And before you know it, they're like, oh, after they reveal the surface that they cleaned and what was pre-existingly there, then they're like, oh crap, did I do that? And it's like, well, did you wipe? Did you blot? How did you go? Did you spray directly? Because those things can contribute to the pattern of etching in some way, shape, or form. And that will tell you you did it, or no, that was there. You just didn't notice it because you were just too busy in the rhythm and routine.
Yeah. No, and that's a good example. Inspection's huge. I have one sailboat that I've done for the better part of the last 12 years. And the guy calls me faithfully, and every year I just, yep, sure, no problem. I go out, I always joke. I said, man, I wish the guy would just bounce a check so I don't have to keep coming back. But, when I say it in a joking manner, really, but every year I'll go around his boat and I'll inspect it. And this year I was going a little quick. Heck, I've been doing it for forever and a half. And I come around to the backside of the boat. I'm 3 hours into polishing this thing, and there's a huge chip out of the gel coat on the back side of it. And I hold my thumb up to it, I take a picture, I send it to him. Just because we do all our communication via email. He's inside in his house, I'm outside in the driveway. And I take this picture and I send it to him, and he goes, "Oh, no worries. I know it's not you, but you've got to always," even me, here I am. I still forgot to do that full blown walk around because I'm like, all right, I didn't have my son help me today. I've got to rip through this myself. Let's work efficiently. No goofing off. I'm just telling myself, let's get it done. And you're right. It's very easy to skip that inspection, and it's something that's important to make sure you get done because you don't always have an understanding customer.
No, not at all. Some of them are just very unrealistic, and they don't have any patience, and there's no room for error in some of their lives. So, I've seen it plenty of times where customers have brought us vehicles and we've pointed stuff out during consultation, and they're like, where the hell just completely taken back that they didn't notice it. And then we pointed out upon them just driving their vehicle up. I've had that happen with all kinds of stuff, interior, exterior, even window tint. Lady got her windows tinted, came here the next day, opened it up during inspection, during the consultation. It's all scratch on the film. Oh my God, nobody sat back here. I don't know where that would have came from. And then I even explained to her as an example, I'm like, this would have come to us, you not knowing since it's in the back seat. You would have got it back, inspected our work, and assumed that we did that. And that would have been a sticky situation because knowing 100% that we didn't, you wouldn't believe me because technically we're the last people to touch it from the tinter, that you have this gap in time from the time it left the tinter to us. So there's there's all these variables, right? And then next thing you know, you're arguing with the customer, knowing you're right, they feel they're right, and it just becomes an issue.
Yeah, and then as a business owner, you're sitting there. So when I ran my detail business, I had one customer. I actually gave the $100 back to them. And I probably, I've once upon a time, I never put 20 hours of detailing into a vehicle. Now, the handful of people that bring me a car, it's not outrageous for them to say, "Hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z," and I don't care. And but I put into $100 detail. I want that to be like the thing. In $100 detail, I spent over 20 hours trying to get clay out of black carpets and this and that. And at the end of the whole thing, the lady turned around and told me that I power washed the red lettering off of her license plates. And I was like, first of all, those plates have obviously been to a body shop. I don't use lacquer thinner. I don't do this. I don't do this.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing in my business that I even use that is that potency. And she just started complaining. She's like, "This is ridiculous, blah, blah." And I handed him the $100 back. And I said,
I love how they assume right out the gate it's a pressure washer.
I'm like, no. And at the point, I don't even think I had a pressure washer in my business. And I just handed them their $100 back. I was like, "Here you go. Thank you very much." And they're like, "What am I supposed to do?" I'm like, "Go buy new plates. They're $25 for a set of new plates." And that's all you can do sometimes. As messed up as it is, sometimes you just have to wash your hands of it. And it was the only complaint that I ever had received out of all that time. And it was obviously the least profitable job. I didn't make any money off of it at this point, but even if I kept the $100, it was the least profitable job. You can't win sometimes, and you need to know that as a business owner.
Yeah. So now, looking at what's relevant with what you do, what's a day-to-day for you now with AutoMagic and representing that brand and who you are with your position?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So first of all, I do want to talk a little bit about who AutoMagic is, because I do know not a lot of people know who AutoMagic is. And then also go about my day-to-day. So my day-to-day is focusing on supporting my distributors on the East Coast. So the East Coast is the largest market sales-wise domestically. Geographically, it's the largest market in the United States. So pretty much everything from the Mississippi River all the way up to Michigan East is my market. We also have the largest distribution count and the largest overall sales rep count on the East Coast. So that's that's really where all of my, what we call our 80% business, or my focus is on my distribution. I heavily rely on them to help us get product to professionals like you guys. And I try to support them as much as I can in markets where I don't have an Automagic distributor. My goal is to find an Automagic distributor, and then support those new guys. And that's where a lot of my work is coming from. So in the last 3 years, the East Coast has added more new distribution than the United States has consecutively in 2 years ever for the last 18 years, actually.
Oh, wow.
So
Nice.
it's been a lot of growth. It's been a lot of work. I'm not doing it myself. We actually have a national trainer, Steve Winfield. Steve, Steve. But so Steve is actually right now in South Carolina. So like I was joking around. I said, this is a good week. I was training 2 new guys yesterday in Syracuse that are sales reps. I've got Steve down south training a guy in South Carolina. And then I'm going to work with 2 more new sales reps. And when I say new, all these people, it's either their first interaction with an Automagic sales rep, or they've been with us for less than a year anyways. So we'll end up touching 5 new Automagic sales reps just this week alone, exclusively on the East Coast, in 3 different states. So, and my peers are working with other new people too, in their own markets. But supporting them is really my heavy spot. Yesterday, I focused on what's called our 6 stages of reconditioning training. So when I do training, or when I ask Steve to do training with me, my focus is working with a salesperson, because that salesperson, so the 2 people I worked with in New York, cover the I-90 corridor, which stretches completely across New York. And now both of them have some knowledge about Automagic, where they can take that and talk to detailers 24/7, or not 24/7, but during their everyday business. And I also trained 3 detailers. So some people like focusing on the detailers. I like focusing on the salespeople, because by focusing on the salespeople, I got to see 3 people yesterday, 3 end users or detailers, professionals. But those sales reps are going to see 3 people every day. And then they're going to see a lot more than 3 people every day. But it allows us to get the knowledge to more people in a quicker manner. So that's where the most of my focus is developing our team, giving them, that training, like I said before, that I received, at Autozone, and trying to show them how easily it can grow their business here, in the detail industry.
I dig it. I like it. That's cool. Very cool. Now, as far as a little bit of history on Automagic.
So, I love that you use that word history. I'm a history buff. I'm not a history buff. I don't know a lot of history. I'm a history enthusiast, I think, is a better way to put it. So I'm a history enthusiast on the detail industry as a whole. So Automagic's history specifically, they were founded in Dallas, Texas in 1960. They were founded in Texas. Their very first product was Easy Clean HD. The Miller father actually started making products in his kitchen sink. So that was literally where it started from. So it's not like it was some big fancy business right off the bat. Automagic, or what started off as Auto-Wax Company. Auto-Wax Company had multiple brands throughout the time. So Automagic is our primary brand. We've done private labeling work with a lot of people, and we still continue to do a lot of private labeling work, all the way up till today. But we also had brands like Body Magic. Body Magic was exclusively for the collision industry. We had things like Safe Earth, which was when everybody was going biodegradable friendly and everything. The other big brand that everyone knows is Clay Magic. So Clay Automagic is the original patent holder for a clay bar. So when it comes to a quality clay, and I'll always ask people, hey, do you know who AutoMagic is? And usually the response is, I don't. And I said, well, you may have used an AutoMagic product since the 70s. If you've ever used a clay bar, you've most likely used an AutoMagic product. So at the end of the day, we're still the largest manufacturer for North America and South America of clay products, especially of the higher end qualities. So we're out there. We're not very good at marketing. It's just not been our expertise. We've always kind of focused on the manufacturing and then allowed other people to focus on the marketing side of it.
I'd say it's very organic. Like once you have a sales rep in the city going shop to shop, then it becomes visual word of mouth on that marketing aspect versus a bunch of fancy commercials or news letters or something like that.
Yeah, so it really produces, in my experience, long-term success rather than short-term success. And the reason I look at that is, as a chemical manufacturer, everyone's had a snake oil sales rep swing by, right? So these snake oil sales reps will come in, they promise you the world, and they'll sell you an item one time, and then they like disappear. And not that all marketing goes that route, but everybody will try something once. And what AutoMagic's philosophy is, we're not really looking for the first sale, we're looking for that second sale. We know that when we get the second sale, it's going to continue to grow. So one of my favorite examples that I use, and I'll use Miami as an example. So Miami is filled with a lot of local manufacturers that will sell a ready-to-use all-purpose cleaner for about $5 a gallon. They're out there all over the place, and we're just not there. That's not our business. We don't do ready-to-use. When we patented the clay and we grew, I mean, overnight we became an international manufacturer. We focus excessively on concentrates, and those concentrates is really where the profitability comes for a detail shop. But going back to that all-purpose cleaner and that $5 a gallon, our AutoMagic distributors in Miami, they'll sell. My favorite all-purpose cleaner from AutoMagic is a product called Special Cleaner. Everyday dilution is 30 to 1. So pretty much a gallon will make you 31 gallons of product. One of my favorite things, I probably don't even have a spray bottle down here, but if you have a spray bottle with a ridge on the bottom, you're literally filling up to that ridge of the bottom of the bottle. And that is your 1 ounce of product. And then you'll fill the rest up from there. I've always had, this is actually my very first time I ever did it. And I'm sure someone showed me, but this is obviously a shot glass. This one's broken, but I won't get rid of it because this was my first shot glass. I use this in my business on dilution. So a shot glass is 1.5 ounces. This piece of electrical tape is set at 1 ounce. And this is a huge takeaway. You can buy 30 milliliter medicine cups on Amazon, which is now what I normally use, especially when I travel. But 1 ounce of product into a 32 ounce spray bottle is your 30 to 1 dilution. And that's AutoMagic philosophy. Our enzyme pre-spot is a 30 to 1 to dilution. Special cleaner is 30 to 1. If you've got a real dirty vehicle, 15 to 1. We have a lot of products that fall into that. And it's crazy because when you look at what the cost of that AutoMagic gallon of special cleaner is, even if it was $30, which is a very high price for that product, but even if it was $30, it'd be less than $1 a gallon in that Miami market where everyone buys a $5 ready to use gallon. And when you really sit down and think about, all right, it's less than $1 a gallon. Every time I go to the Dollar Tree and I buy a product where I'm paying $1 for a 32 ounce spray bottle, even that, all right, now we're talking $1 for a 32 ounce spray bottle instead of less than 25 cents. We're 4xing or 5xing our chemical expenses. And again, everyone will buy it once. You'll get that $5 one time, but when you can show someone that, yeah, maybe you spend $30 on a gallon of concentrates, but that gallon goes, so much further and is much less expensive and usually outperforms It's kind of crazy. You'll find a lot of national brands that they're more expensive. You dilute them and then they become less expensive, and their performance is better than the cheap stuff in the first place. So that's one of the reasons. That's actually probably the primary reason that I ended up landing with Automagic as a manufacturer rep. I think when I parted ways with Wipe On Wipe Off, I knew I would be a manufacturer rep. It was just finding, the right people that we were all on the same page, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I like it.
But yeah,
Automagic has a lot to offer in regards to the spectrum of products that are offered through Automagic. So
yeah, no, and they really do. So we've got we still have a couple hundred SKUs. We've we've done a great job on streamlining products. We just recently did a label overhaul where we started talking about the dilutions on the outside of the front of the container, which is awesome. So I'll because we're talking about special cleaner, I'll just use that. So special cleaner, which is not our, Red Hot is our number one selling product globally. And everyone's probably used Red Hot or seen a product like Red Hot. Red Hot was the very first red degreaser that smelled like cinnamon. And there was a handful of guys over at Carbrite, PNS, Automagic that all knew each other, that had their regions that they kind of work on, Ardex. But Automagic was that first one that actually they were very early adopters on the very first people to put dye into a detailing chemical. So once upon a time, your Windex or your glass cleaner would have been whatever the color of the chemical was. And that's when they said, hey, if we're going to help people do this faster, we've got to get color coordinated. Let's put some yummy fragrances into it. They were not the first people to bring in buffing pads, but they were another very early adopter of a foam buffing pad. For anyone that is an Automagic distributor or purchased from an Automagic distributor, I've probably got the old VHS somewhere here. So like when I tell you I'm actually right here, foam pad polishing. So there was a guy, anyone that Automagic trucks, and Automagic loves training just like I do. There's no date on this one, but this would have been a video that was sent out to an Automagic distributor. And it's a 7-minute video. You would have your Automagic truck would show up with a TV and a VHS in the back of it, and you would pop one of these videos in, and you would actually learn from a manufacturer rep like myself, or at the time Rick Schmidt, who was our national trainer, or Dennis from Tornador was our national trainer also once upon a time. So he's in this video actually. But you would get this education, and Automagic did a lot of that way back when. We worked heavily with auto auctions, new car dealerships. I've got videos in here from GM that are pretty cool to look at, where GM is actually highlighting, Automagic clay and Carbrite's fallout remover. At the time, before we did all this color changing fallout remover, we've always had an acid-based fallout remover. And we actually have an acid-based fallout remover that was specifically developed for Toyota North America. So as a distributor, that's always kind of been one of the really cool things you can get out of Automagic, is we would make a product, we'd be highlighted in a technical service bulletin or a warranty claim as most recently as November, or it really hit our distribution late December, where we would just say, hey, here's all these dealerships for this manufacturer, and you have to deliver them these products, and here you go. And that's kind of where we're continuing to grow. It's a lot of cool stuff. This was probably one of the coolest things that I want to figure out how to get turned back on. So like I said, I did my stint over at AutoZone, so I'm very familiar with ASE, but Automotive Service Excellence is the certifications, kind of like the IDA is for us in the detail industry. But Automagic 6 Stages was developed for the Toyota recertification program of North America, for Ford. It's been adopted by Subaru, but it's the only training manual ever in our industry to ever be recognized by ASE. So at this point, it's expired. But it's just crazy when I see stuff like that. Like how can you not be excited about the history? And again, going back 10 years ago, $100 detail I thought was awesome. And now I love watching detailers make $2,500, $3,500 on a full blown detail, because it goes back to that right word, profitability, which is how we all get to feed our family.
No, I 100% agree. And I love hearing that background story. That's awesome in regards to both you and Auto Magic. We are on time as far as coming up on time, I should say, for complete. I try to keep them right at around 45 minutes to an hour. So we're right there. So just to kind of finalize everything with, your path and background and history, which was awesome to listen to, and definitely picked up some really cool facts about Auto Magic and their background, which was really neat. Do you have any words of advice for any of the viewers, whether they be a detailer, distributor, doesn't matter, just the industry in general, anything that you could throw out there that could be helpful?
So word of advice, you can always learn. That's something I think everyone needs to focus on. You can always learn. It's important to always listen and always learn, whether someone's newer in the industry than you or has been here and they're a dinosaur. You can always learn a different point of view. In addition to that, the one thing that I hope you guys have heard me say is that word profitability. Profits come really quick and easy by just taking a couple peeks at things. More recently, we've developed a more boutique or professional, what people would now call professional branded products. Once upon a time, Auto Magic was always kind of trademarked as the wholesale or the auction people. And we've made some products where you're getting that true paint correction with no enhancers or fillers, and it may be $20 or $30 a quart less expensive. And the big thing is make sure it's less expensive. It's not cheaper. And what I mean by that is you've got to have your performance so that your labor costs don't go up. Labor is the most expensive thing in our industry. I could honestly do a whole podcast about labor expenses. That's usually where a lot of the expenses that I talk about is becoming more efficient. But when it comes to chemicals, if it's a compound or a polish, and you're spending an extra $20 or $30 on a quart twice a month, realize that you're spending an extra $700 a year to use that specific one. Is it worth it? Same thing, and where the dollars really add up is all-purpose cleaners or degreasers, car soaps. If you find a car soap that maybe you can purchase in a more concentrated form, and it saves you money, $30 to $40, when you say savings on a product like that, usually is amplified by weeks or sometimes even 2 pails a week. You sometimes can be talking about $5,000, and I've gone in some pretty high volume places where they're spending an extra $5,000 a year to use a less concentrated all-purpose cleaner when they can add their own water. And my question, I'll say the exact same question to everybody that I would say to that detail shop is, wow, you must really like your chemical rep because you're giving him $5,000 a year to bring his wife and kids to the beach. I don't know why you wouldn't save that money and bring your wife and kids to the beach. Just go home, and whether it's a wife or a husband, just go home and let your significant other know that you guys can't go to the beach this year because, you want to let the other guy bring his family to the beach. And it's personal enough that I think people sit back and they realize, hey, that's actually where that money is going, or where I could use that money. And I just hope everyone looks at it that way, is every dollar, every profitable dollar you can have is a dollar for your family or a dollar to grow your business. Heck, how many people are listening to this podcast right now, and $5,000 that they're now spending on all-purpose cleaner in a surplus, not just the total budget, but an unneeded amount? How would that change your business, or how would that change your family's life?
I like it. 100% agree. Just watching more of a cost analysis and watching your spending and understanding where it's going and why. And keeping money in your pocket. That's the biggest thing. I love that. So, well, cool, man. I appreciate you having you on, and on behalf of Buff and Shine, thank you very much. And not just you, Tyler, but of course, Auto Magic. Thank you for them allowing you to take an hour of your day to spend with me, and of course, anybody at home watching, thank you. And how would they get a hold of you and or Auto Magic? Shoot me out some plugs.
Yeah, so I'm probably not as good as blasting out my handles. So anyone can find me on Facebook at Tyler Cucchi. If you find me, I usually friend request or accept anyone, as long as you look like a professional. In addition to that, we have a group called Auto Magic Nation. The Auto Magic Nation group is my group. It was kind of my proof of concept on getting Auto Magic to be more active with social media. So Auto Magic Nation's awesome. I do have that currently open, so there is no questionnaire. So anyone that hears it off this podcast for like the next week, feel free to just, join the group. If you're listening to it after that, it may be closed. Just put on there that you saw this podcast and I'll accept you into it. It is exclusively for professionals, just because we may talk about a specific product and, hey, it takes you 15 minutes to apply. It costs you $1.50 for the application, but you're going to charge $79.99. And that's something that as a professional, I want you to see, but I don't want to have your customer, the vehicle owner, see that at the same time. And then when it comes to Auto Magic's pages, our handle for Auto Magic is Auto Magic Products. That's a plural, no spaces. That's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Auto Magic Products is what they use. And if you're on TikTok, I have Auto Magic Nation on TikTok too. I just have been tied up working with the product development team recently, so I'll hopefully get to be active on it here pretty soon again on TikTok and Instagram. Again, that Auto Magic Nation is what I usually promote for work-related stuff.
Cool. Well, like you heard it, if you have any questions about Auto Magic products, distribution, you know how to get a hold of Tyler. And of course, you have their direct website if you're wanting to check out any of their products, product lineup in general, or just specs on their products, just to kind of browse over. So thank you again, Tyler. This is Reflection Artist Live, episode number 42. And thank everybody at home, on site, wherever you might be out there, listening, watching. And you have a good rest of your day, and hopefully we'll link up soon, maybe at a trade show or something.
Hey, have a great one.
You too. Take care. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everybody.